Greetings, Stash Wyslouch here. Welcome to Quick Tips. If you want to get better at guitar, send me an email and sign up for private instruction. If you like the making of these online videos, make sure to subscribe to my Patreon page, where you get access to monthly workshops, supplemental PDFs, and more. The next Patreon exclusive workshop will deal directly with today's quick tip, with a lot of supplemental ideas that we'll get into. Today's quick tip, I want to go over something I've gone over in the past, and that is develop exercises from repertoire. One of my ultimate aims on the guitar in life is to feel totally free over whatever repertoire I'm playing, be it a fiddle tune, a jazz standard, one of my own original compositions, anything. In order to feel free, your fingers have to know places where to go. You have to be able to listen to what's going on, and whatever theoretical kind of things you worked out in your head have to already be taught and understood on a deep level by your whole person, not just your brain. That's why I think scale, arpeggio, and general finger exercises are really important. There's some classic ones you can do, but I think the best ones are those derived from repertoire. So I want to give you a method on how to find nice exercises based on the repertoire, and then 3 modifications, so you can really expand on the small exercises you create. So let's take a tune like Wyslouch. 1, 2, 3, 4. That was the A and the B part. So first what I want to do is locate a nice definitive cell. Let's just take the very first 4 notes. What is that? It's a G major triad going up. Boom, I've got my cell. I define the cell. How do I find it? A starting note, in this case a G. And then the intervals that I need to execute in order for this cell to happen. Namely, I go up a third, another third, and a fourth. So the first thing I want to suggest, just as a scale exercise, sequence that cell through a scale. Now the A part of Wyslouch, one could say it feels like a G Mixolydian scale, a G major scale but with a flat 7 instead of the major 7. So my proposition is sequence it through all the notes of the scale as your starting note. So first the G, then the A, the second note of the scale, up a third, up a third, up a third, up a fourth, aka the triad arpeggio. Off the third, a B diminished. Off the fourth, C major. Off the fifth, a D minor. Off the sixth, an E minor. Off the seventh, the flat 7th, an F major. And then back to the 1, up a G major. This is the first 4 notes sequenced up the G Mixolydian scale. You could be really specific about it and say, I'm just going to do it in one position, what I would call 2E. I've reached the top of the position. Same cell, the cell's still going up, but I'm going to sequence it down. Very cool. That's step 1. That could be a good exercise for the next 2-3 weeks. So this is one of my first suggestions. When you find this exercise, commit to it. Write it down. Start noting at what tempo you're actually able to do it. You might have to start extraordinarily slow at first. So slow that you can never even imagine that it'll ever get into your natural playing at those fast fiddle tune tempos. But it will, and you have to be extraordinarily patient. So start really slow because you have to intellectually process where all these notes are, what's happening. Mark every day what metronome marking you can get to, and have a goal based on whatever tempo you like to play the tune at as to where you want to bring that exercise to. Your fingers are doing totally new things, and maybe, just maybe when you're improvising, these new things will pop in. Might take a few months, might take a few years, but trust me, this will deepen your experience of the tune and your general improvisations greatly. Now there's some modifiers. First, if we call that cell a prime cell, we can do a couple things. So one thing we can do is play it in retrograde, play it backwards. So start at the end of the cell and go backwards. So instead of going, we'll go backwards. That's it. And do the same thing we did before. Sequence it up and down the scale, but the cell backwards. Interesting. So that's the first thing. Next idea, don't just sequence it up the scale. Sequence it up the arpeggio or un-arpeggio. So if the first starting note is a G, we could sequence it up a G7 arpeggio. Very cool. It's not just the G7 arpeggio. It's a G7 arpeggio with this nice cell interpolated. A nice melodic variation. Take the B part of Wyslouch. Let's find a different cell. Oh, how about that? A G, going up a scale step, going back down a scale step, and then down a third. That's a very nice little cell. We could sequence it down. Sequence it up. Super cool. You could do it backwards. Again, if you decide to commit for the next 2 months to getting really good at playing Wyslouch, this would be a wonderful supplemental thing to do. Take little cells from Wyslouch and just play with them. And maybe when you're toggling between melody and just pure improvisation, some of these cells may appear in your own creative melodies. Let me give you one more interesting way that you can modify these. Insert some chromaticism. So let's go back to the first cell. We're going up these arpeggios. And what if we insert a chromatic approach before each cell? 1, 2, 3, 4. This starts giving you some really interesting shapes and rhythm. Now our 4-note cell has become a 5-note cell. If you didn't want it to become a 5-note cell, the solution would be simple. Just snip off 1 note of the cell. So for example, instead of going 1, 3, 5, 1, snip off the last 1 and replace it with a chromatic approach. Very nice. You could get as wild and wacky as you want with it. You could do an enclosure for each one of these. Approach above and then below chromatically the first note of the cell. Don't don't forget the main goal, the main aim of doing these exercises. It's not just a monkey jumping through hoops. You're really trying to train your fingers and ears to feel and see new things with the melodic material that the repertoire has already given you. If you commit to one of these exercises at a time for enough of a period where you can actually master them and get them at a tempo where you don't have to think about it anymore and your fingers are just doing the work, amazing things happen. If we're talking the time scale of 3 to 4 months, you will see great benefits if you commit to this for that amount of time. And I'm talking about doing an exercise like this every day and committing it to getting to a reasonable tempo. And now, if you did want to try and make something musical as you're going along on your 3 to 4 month journey, my suggestion would be to try and come up with melodies exclusively with these cells. You can use operations like retrograding the cell, snipping off pieces of the cell, or adding chromatic interpolations to any piece of the cell to get some nice variation so it doesn't sound like a total exercise. So for example, we could have 3, 4. Takes a lot of time, a lot of messing around, but if you listen to great improvisers like Keith Jarrett, Chick Corea, and you analyze their long flowing lines, you start to see all these little kind of cells and the kind of things that they're doing in the moment, modifying it so it feels like a really nice fluid melodic line without that structured academic feeling you'd get if you just played the exact cell up and down verbatim like you do in the structural exercise. But don't forget the incremental step. You have to do the structural exercises slow, methodically, with patience, or else this stuff will get nowhere. It'll just be another exercise that you wasted your time on. Thank you so much for watching. If this kind of thing is interesting to you, you might want to consider a workshop that I will be hosting in a few weeks, where we will do a fiddle tune every 2 weeks, assign each other structural exercises like these, compose our own breaks, and then have the group format so that we're all accountable to really do the work. So make sure to stay tuned for that. More information in the description below, and we'll see you next time.